Do you think you possess a great level of technical ability? I hate to break to you, but that is not enough to reach the highest level in football. You see, a common problem players and coaches make is they confuse technique with skill just as if they were the same thing, yet they are not. Although they are deeply correlated to each other, technique and skill are two different aspects of performance and development. To make things clear for you, let's define both terms. So technique in football and sports in general is an intentional and effective sequence of movements in their most basic and simple form, either with or without the ball. Put in simple words, technique is just a physical task, a combination of movements. This includes all the technical elements of the game such as passing, ball control, dribbling, shooting, etc. etc. Now, technical skill is an intentional and effective sequence of movements that is used to solve specific problems in the chaotic environment of football where the pressure of time, space and opponents are high. To give you an example, it requires fundamental technique to pass the ball from point A to point B, but it requires skill for players to engage their cognitive skills in combination with their technique to recognize that the opposition is, let's say, applying a high press, and to actually make a decision that is going to be fast but also solve the game problem at hand and relieve pressure. With that in mind, the difference between technique and skill is clear. Technique is the foundation of skill, yet skill is the aspect of the game that really dictates your level of performance on the pitch. You can have technique without skill, but you can't have skill without technique. This is something which we will talk about later though. Another example I would like to give you is this. While both you and Marcelo might be able to fluidly get the ball down to the ground after kicking the ball 5 meters up in the air, Marcelo possesses a greater level of technical skill. This increased level of technical skill enables him to use this specific technical aspect of the game in much more complex game scenarios and solve them with more quality or a more consistent success rate. Technical skill might not be the end-all be-all answer to elite football performance, but it definitely is a really big piece of the puzzle. A must-have, I would say, if you want to reach the elite level. But how do you develop elite level technical skill? So the skill acquisition process, no matter if we're talking about passing skill, dribbling skill, or any other skill you might think of, can be broken down into 3 stages: cognitive stage, the associative stage, and the autonomous stage. The first stage of the skill acquisition process starts with the footballer acquiring a basic motor pattern, aka a technical movement, into his neuromuscular system and creating the so-called motor engrams. This stage is fundamental in the skill acquisition process and it certainly can't be skipped. As a player, you need to be fed with technical cues, guidance, freedom, opportunities to fail, and questions that are going to lead you to a deeper learning experience. It is quite usual for players to be inconsistent with the efficiency of their technique during this stage, but that is the time you need to keep putting in the work and slowly transition to the next phase. Some things that can really help you or your players go through this process fast and effectively include a breakdown of all the key elements of the skill, slowing down the movement so you can really grasp the technical side of things and ingrain a proper movement, but also visualizing yourself executing the fundamental technical aspects of the skill with excellence. Now moving on to the associative stage, which I like to refer to as the stage where technique is converted into skill. Given that you have achieved a greater level of technical quality but also consistency, you are now ready to increase the complexity of the development process by adding more complex training stimuli that will challenge you on a whole new level. This is the stage where players start using technique to solve game-specific problems. The intensity and difficulty of those drills should be progressively increased so that the players can slowly start getting familiar with the skill aspect of technical development. Now, the third and last stage of the skill acquisition process is the autonomous stage. That's where skill is truly mastered and you can start taking cold-blooded actions. In this stage, the athlete is able to execute the motor pattern learned almost automatically with little to no conscious effort and processing time. This quote-unquote automation enables you to react to the different stimuli that are present within a 90-minute game with fast and precise actions without wasting time between perception and action. So, during this 3-stage process, we're basically moving from conscious to subconscious efforts. We go from basic to more complex and game-specific problems. You transition from a closed, stable, predictable, and structured training environment to the chaotic environment of a 90-minute game. Now, as we've said, skill is complex and consists of various elements you need to nurture as you're climbing up the levels in football. More specifically, 5 of the factors that highly influence the skill aspect of performance include kinesthesia, which is your ability to perceive and control your body's tension, timing, joint range of motion, and positioning in space, space-time orientation, balance and stability, complex reactionary ability, and rhythm. Yes, skill is complex, You see, football and its beauty are all about skill, and that is one of the main reasons you are not Messi, Ronaldo, or Conte. The good news is that you can take control of the situation and level up your technical skill level. So when it comes to converting technique into skill, logic and principles will take you a long way. So make sure you stick until the end, because I think this can really change the way you approach your training and overall development. The number one thing I always advise players to do if they are struggling with a certain skill is to isolate the technical part of the skill and slow it down. The slow pace of a drill will allow you to focus on the quality of each repetition and ingrain the kinesthetic elements behind the skill. This will help you develop a more consistent motor pattern and allow you to refine your movement to benefit your skill. The next tool you can use to convert that great technical level of yours into game skill is the use of cognitive stimuli to add a reactionary stimulus to your drills. As we all know, football is chaotic and unpredictable in nature. By including certain reactive stimuli at training, you can get closer to the game and the cognitive demands it places on you, which are quite big. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the perception-action coupling principle. Perceive information around you, process it, and act upon it with proper timing and quality of action. Then, you can also use small-sided games to start using the skills you're developing under the pressure of space, time, and opponents. This increase in pressure and reduction of available space and time will force you to think and execute at a faster pace. This really offers a complex training stimulus you cannot find in individual drills. You're basically required to solve game-specific problems by applying the technical skills you have acquired. Skill acquisition at its best. Another great thing you can do is adjust the angles, distances, and shapes of your drills based on the most common game scenarios you get into. This is a really nice way to practice the technical aspect of performance in a structured manner but with game-specific actions. So, study your position and do an in-depth analysis of the most common actions you take in-game. Then, come up with patterns that you can use in your training to simulate game actions in the controlled environment of training. And lastly, another training tool that is really popular nowadays is the use of limitations. No matter what technical skill you are trying to develop, limitations can be used as a coaching method to cut off a bad habit and force a faster decision-making process. This will basically increase the complexity of a training drill and place higher demands on the players. Having said that, its use at training should be monitored with detail, as this can definitely become too much of a good thing. So guys, technique and skill might be two different things, but they're closely related to each other. Without technical mastery, you can't acquire skill. And without skill acquisition, you cannot evolve from an amateur to a world-class level footballer. Slow down the process and do not rush things. Master the technical elements of a motor pattern and slowly add various training stimuli that increase the complexity and challenge your specific needs. Now, if you want to take this up a notch and acquire the skill needed to excel in football, I urge you to watch this video next so you can start opening your can of beans with an axe without spilling the damned beans. Until the next time, have a good one.